Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first stream and release roundup. My name is Darko. Today with us we have Alex and Pedro.
Hello.
Yeah, my role is CTO. Alex is our product manager. He'll be, guiding us through what we did. And Pedro was in charge for this first release after the initial announcement. So yeah, this is 1.1. Am I correct?
That's right. First update after the initial launch. Oh, first major.
Great. Maybe we can get started.
All right. Well, yeah. Hi, everyone. Today we're just going to have a quick overview of our first bigger update after we had our initial community edition launch. So we're going to check real quickly on what's new in version 1.1, and at the end we are going to talk about also what's coming up in 1.2. So you can check the releases to see the full change log. There are a lot of things that were updated here, but one thing that I want to point out is we will review the product updates, sure, but something that may not be visible is the Enterprise Edition updates, which we will talk about in a second. So first of all, what were our goals for March release? At the top level, we wanted to test our release process, and just this is somewhat new for us. We follow the continuous integration and deployment. So our cloud is constantly updated, and we didn't really do the scheduled releases except for the on-prem version so far. But the process for that is a bit different. So we wanted to test this out, which versions are release candidates, how do we release them, how do we test them, and all of that. In addition to that, we wanted to address at least one quality of life improvement within the product. And there were also some leftovers and bugs from that initial rollout that needed to be addressed. So bunch of changes here. We will go over the product ones now to explain a bit the Enterprise Edition. Maybe first Darko can give us a short intro on what Enterprise Edition Semaphore is, and I can cover a bit on what updates we made there, and we can then move on to the Community Edition updates that Pedro and the team worked on.
Sure, let me do that. Maybe prior to doing that, let me also mention the Community Edition. So the Community Edition, this is the release of a Community Edition, which comes with vast majority of Semaphore features and is fully under Apache 2 license and is great for a majority of smaller and medium companies. And with that, Enterprise Edition is the one that includes all the security, compliance, and regulatory features needed for bigger companies. And it does also include like a couple of features that are not available inside of a Community Edition yet. Some of them will be trickling down over time, and some very soon in the next couple of months. But yeah, for now they live only in the Enterprise Edition. And as Alex said, we only have a preview of that Enterprise Edition in this format. It exists for a number of years in a different format. And yeah, the source code for the Enterprise Edition is also available in the repository, so it's a source available, but it's under the commercial license. And yeah, with I think those high-level explanations out of the way, Alex, you can probably.
Yeah, just to clarify, the majority of the source code for Enterprise Edition is available, and that was the one big stride that we made last month is in adding the missing pieces and enabling them for the Enterprise Edition here. As you can see, we have some services that are relatively new on this repository. So there is Velocity, and Audit Velocity is the service that's in charge of managing those pipeline insights, so metrics for your pipelines, and the audit is for audit logs. The Enterprise Edition also has a different role-based access control, so there is a split in that area. So from what I understand, it was really challenging on engineering side to split that and to make those changes. So long story short, in March, a big effort that's not necessarily visible right now, but it will be important for April, was made in getting closer to launching this Enterprise Edition, which will be free and available up to a certain tier, but we'll announce that in more detail in April. So in addition to that, let's talk a bit about what's changing in Community Edition. As I said, we wanted to introduce at least a few quality of life improvements. And one that got repeated frequently in the past years is the one for the timestamps. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Is my sound okay?
It's okay. Maybe you can check on your microphone in these settings below. Is the headset mic on?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Is better now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it said the default headset, but apparently that's not what it was using. Okay, so as I was saying, timestamps. A lot of people asked us about timestamps over time, and this is this small thing that we never got the chance to work on. So what I mean by timestamps, before the update, all the timestamps were in this format, as in 4 minutes ago, and that is fine if it's within 1 hour for the workflow. But if you are going back 1 week or a few days and you want to check and debug some specific workflows or something that ran during the weekend while you were out of office, for example, having the timestamp that says 2 days ago is not really helpful. You cannot really know when it ran. You had the option of hovering over it and seeing that, but it was not very easy to consume. So we updated timestamps now to this more strict format and more verbose format. That's one update that was frequently requested. Pedro, as I understood, there was some challenge there with the libraries that were used.
Yes, exactly. We had some deprecated libraries that we needed to update, and we needed to implement our own implementation. So basically, we needed to rewrite this library on our own repository.
Yeah, it's usually like that with these simple updates. They're always look simple until you start working on them, and then you realize you have to make a bunch of changes to accommodate. Speaking of simple updates, maybe a question for you guys. This workflow, this YAML has a bunch of issues. Can you notice any problems with it?
There's too much green.
Right, that's one. Well, you won't have to guess in this new version. Let me just open my Community Edition instance.
If you refresh the original one now.
So this is the same YAML file. Can you notice the issues now?
Yes.
There is no longer green.
Right. So one of the updates that we did is we changed the YAML file editor that we were using. This is partially a leftover from our onboarding experience improvements that we had. This new editor that we are using right now is Mark editor. It's the same editor that's used in Visual Studio Code Studio. So it comes with a lot of different options. In general, it has a lot better UX than what was there before. I mean, here you cannot collapse lines, and we also introduced this linter and validator that checks against our YAML schema. So now it can detect issues like this, and if you are referencing something wrong. So, for example, yeah. when queue, and sometimes I make mistake, and instead of OS image I use dash. But yeah, should help anyone that's using YAML editor directly. But biggest advantage I would say is that this allows us to extend this editor in the future and add some other cool options. For example, we want to introduce this dark theme that is also another frequently requested feature by quality of life feature. And this editor allows us to actually set up different themes and easily change them. So yeah, that's one more quality of life improvement that was added. Both the editor were changed and we introduced this schema validation. Pedro, any thoughts on implementation?
Yes. So basically, this was the most challenging engineering task from this roadmap, since there was no YAML library that shows the exact line or column that our schema was incorrect. So we needed to implement that kind of parsing that highlights where the error is based on our schema. Of course, we also had that YAML parsing that shows where the line is incorrect on that part, but that was not covering the schema itself. That means where the workflow is incorrect in the pipeline file.
Okay, so you had to code that mapping.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yes.
Maybe Alex, for the people that don't know, the Visual Builder still works even with this, right?
Yeah, of course you can still use the workflow editor, and that's still there. It's just that you always had this alternative option of editing the YAML file directly here. So set up, and that changes. Oh well, this is broken now because it's a broken YAML that I'm using. But yeah, the visual editor still works and is still there. It's just that the YAML editor was updated, and yeah, that's it. And we also want to extend the functionality of YAML editor in the future. I think that we reached the peak with visual editor, but there are users that, especially the more experienced users, that prefer to work with YAML directly. So their user experience is also important. Yeah. In addition to that, other quality of life improvements that were added. Honorable mentions, real quick. So one thing that was requested by users is somehow showing in some clearer way the status of the job itself when you open the job page. So introduce this flag here that shows the status of the job itself. And yeah, before you had just commands and the status of each command. But now when you open the page, it's a lot easier to immediately visually identify the status of the whole job. So if you're opening that one from GitHub status checks or something, it's more noticeable. And in addition to that, we added and improved, just do this real quick, these starter templates in 1.0. We didn't really have the accurate starter templates there, but now we do have some initial list of the ones that you can try out if you're new. They won't work out of the box. It really depends on what you're running in your project, and we do plan to expand this list and add a bunch more things here that would be helpful for different workflows that people want to set up. But yeah, for start, we have at least the initial set of them up and running in 1.1. So that would be some smaller quality of life improvements. There were several other things that were introduced. You can see this roadmap is public, by the way. So if you go to projects, roadmap, you should be able to see this for yourself. We have this per milestone view and the March update. These are all of the tickets that we had. There were some pretty important bugs that were addressed in 1.1, and few examples are scheduler's not working. This one was pretty important, and this one was also somewhat a key issue that needed to be resolved. So just to give a bit of a context, once we launched 1.0, we did test the tasks feature, which allow you to define tasks that you can run manually. But the scheduled tasks, the one that run on periodic scheduler, were not functional. So that is addressed now. And if you had that issue in 1.0, in 1.1, you can use scheduled tasks. Yeah, Pedro, feel free to chime in if any of these are interesting from the engineering standpoint. I know that these integration credentials and GitLab issue kind of were. And
Yeah,
I can,
like the main issues with GitLab, it's everything that is new. We sometimes uh, miss some features that were implemented for other Git providers, and we didn't uh, discover where was the issue at the first time. But after it fails, we just saw, oh, it's not referencing this Git provider specifically. Then we just added that, and everything worked. Also, this caching validation, I think that was the main one, since it was making possible to update or delete and added integration. And in summary, we were having an eternal cache, so we just needed to add an validation, and everything worked.
yeah, this one is somewhat interesting because effectively, once you create that GitHub app or GitLab OAuth app or Bitbucket OAuth app and connect it to yourself, for instance, they live in these settings here, Git integrations, and there is an option to delete them at the bottom and remove this connection. However, this option wasn't working. So technically, you would remove GitHub app, but you would still be able to connect repositories on this cell, for instance, through that app due to the caching. So that's another issue that was addressed. There were a bunch of other improvements too, but I think that these were the biggest ones. I would like to mentioned our first external contributors. They are small but really cool updates, in my opinion. So this one is from Michal.
Pronounce it.
Michal. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And I wasn't really aware of this one, but it must have been really annoying for him. It would be for me too if I noticed it. So there are these dots that indicate the status of the test, for example. And if you select and try to copy something, you would, before this fix, you would select these dots too, which is, I imagine, super annoying. So this small fix addresses that, and these are not selectable anymore. So thank you for your contribution. And another one is, let me see where we are. Yeah, another one is a simple typo fix on our login page, but it's somewhat embarrassing one. Yeah, thank you, Lorenzo, for addressing that one. And yeah, that's our first two contributors. We will be working. Yeah, but I love this. I mean, because these are those small things that that were annoying for these people, and
Yeah, and
as soon as
we would never get to those because
yes, yeah, and as soon as we opened up the code, they were like, yes, finally I can change this, and yeah, or at least that's how I imagine it. We will be improving our contributor experience during April as we go. So we will log a few tickets that will be marked as a good first issue. So stay tuned for that. But in addition to that, we are working on ramping up our procedures and adding additional explanations on how you can easily contribute to Semaphore, but also test your changes in some meaningful and simple way that doesn't require a full day to set up. Um, So yeah, that's the current release. Any notes, questions, guys, or should we talk a bit about what's coming up next?
Well, maybe we can, since Pedro is our youngest and newest team member, had the opportunity to
It was a really good experience, I would say. Is like when you work directly with open source, you're everyone can see your job, and I think that's the thing that I most like personally. And of course, you're every time contributing to something that everybody can use, and well, that's every time that you contribute to something, it appears on the GitHub news on the first page. So I think that's the thing that I most like at most, and also because well, you're helping people to get problems solved easily with more people contributing to that, and that's
That's
it.
great. Anything we want to do different in the next release, and some tips to pass to Nick, who is coming up, who is going to be owning the April release, or we are going to let him burn himself and learn the hard way.
Actually, like the things that are more challenging are just when someone doesn't follow the Git convention or the commits are not signed, and we need to ask the contributors to sign their commits and so on. So I think that's something that we need to update on our current docs for contributing it and so on. But that's like quite okay to do. I don't think that you're going to run on many problems.
Great.
I had a few lessons learned on my end because we up until now we fully had the luxury of you know jumping on a call to discuss any changes that are required, while now we're trying to document them as much as possible. So finding that right balance between being too detailed in descriptions and not being detailed enough is something that I need to work on, because we're taking this approach of you know uh, less details, and if more details are needed, anyone can approach me directly and we can discuss it live or async. But we don't really have that as an option now, and we should try to find that balance between the two. So Marco says, how did you guys decide to rotate release ownership? Right, so we want each engineer to be able to uh, release a new version of Semaphore. So we are rotating engineers on monthly basis that work on this community edition roadmap and updates. And whoever is on rotation for that month is also responsible for releasing that version of Semaphore. The scope for that monthly update is defined based on the engineer, and also the requirements from community, but also existing user base. So we shape that scope at the beginning of the month. The engineer works on implementation for the first few weeks of the month. We do the testing, and then the engineer packages the release. So ideally, everyone in Semaphore development team should be able to release a new version of Semaphore, and we'll be rotating on a monthly basis with that. Hope I answered your question, Marco.
Great. Well, maybe we can talk about the next release and the plans there. So I already mentioned the Nick from the team would be taking over the April release and adding some important things there, such as Git agnostic approach to you can essentially connect any Git as a source. It doesn't need to be GitHub or Bitbucket or GitLab. You should be able to integrate any Git into your workflow. So that's one of the bigger ones that we'll be working on. But yeah, Alex, back to you. Maybe you can share a screen and show us.
Yeah, sharing the screen right now. So this is plan for April release. This is the biggest update, as you mentioned. Right now we're relying on. We do have the option of connecting GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket, uh, but we want to decouple from those solutions and allow anyone basically that's using it to use Semaphore. So I think that majority is the biggest update would be this, right? Enabling users that don't necessarily use any of these three version control softwares to use Semaphore. In addition to that, we still want to continue adding smaller quality of life improvements, and there is a bit of a split in the roadmap here. So ideally, we would add this thing to the scope. And this is something that, in addition to timestamps, but this is a bit more substantial update that people have requested, but it's not that easy to implement. There are some technical challenges. So just to explain what this ticket is, as you guys may know, if you want to go back in time on the branch level and see older builds, you have this button here that says older. And this is not real pagination, so I cannot link to this page. Link doesn't change, and if I refresh the page, I'm back at the start, for example. And if I want to go 2 months back, I need to click a lot of times on this folder. So some solution for this. We have a few ideas on how this could be solved, but any solution for this would be meaningful for existing users, I think. However, as I mentioned, it's engineering really challenging. We want to implement this first thing that was mentioned, and then see how it goes.
I mean, I just want to say on the pagination. I don't know if it's mentioned here, but I mean, I remember receiving from the number of people that they would want that date filtering. That they have a drop down and I say okay, from 15th to 17th of March.
Yeah, that's one option. The issue comes from the fact that we have a lot of organizations with huge lists of workflows, and those queries are very slow potentially. We need to try it out and see, but I think that
Sure.
will be the challenge. So depending on how easy would it be for Nick to update this, and when he will be done with this generic Git integration, it's either that what will be added to the scope or everything else in this list. Here we have several smaller improvements. I mean, this is a required, I would say, the ability for a root user to change their password, because you don't have that option right now on Community Edition, and it's super annoying if you forget it, and it's that generic password that's generated during installation. There are also a few smaller improvements that we collected requests over time. For example, there is this is not visible enough, so it's a cosmetic change, but also important, like that one on the job page, or the fact that if you rebuild the workflow on the task execution history, it will not appear, so you have a bit of a discrepancy between those two lists. So several smaller improvements like that, but I would really like if we could solve this pagination issue. I think that a lot of users would be happy with that. If not, this allow users to edit their email is another thing that pops up constantly. It's maybe not something that's impacting a single user repeatedly, but it is impacting a large amount of users. We had a lot of requests for that, but yeah, so that's our list. You can check again. You can check our roadmap. It's at public project. It's available here. And I would like to remind everyone that you can add suggestions, open issues, and kind of share your feedback on what you would like to see in the future releases. Right now, we're building this based on the data that was collected on the cloud edition, but we also hope that we'll get some feedback from community edition users soon. And for these monthly updates, we sure will prioritize that. Yeah, and that's it. So the April release, generic Git integration, and we will see if we will be able to do pagination, or if not, then all of these other smaller improvements here. We didn't really notice any major bugs except these few here, but who knows, some may pop up during the month. If they do, the roadmap might be slightly updated.
Well, great, Alex. Thanks for that. Yeah, so these are the things that were lined up and packaged for the April release. We have a number of other things that we are working on, which you will be seeing in the changelog, and some SIGs, special interest groups around continuous delivery and so on, that will be kicking off. So there are many more things happening, and yeah, waiting for the next release. Thank you, guys. Great work.
See you next month.
See you.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you.